Members of the River State House of Assembly are gathered in the unfamiliar setting of the auditorium away from their usual venue, which was mysteriously burnt down last night. The Speaker makes his way in, and proceedings begin with the Speaker condemning in strong language the burning of the hallowed chambers. He accuses the House Leader, Edison Ehie, of supervising the burning on behalf of the government.
Sadly here, we see a situation where the legislature is being attacked and not allowed to perform. We cannot really understand why our own chambers will be burnt down because somebody does not want this arm of government to survive or to function. This is sad. This is a sad day for River State, and we know that security agencies will certainly do what is necessary to arrest all those who brought this bad news to River State.
3 items are brought before the House by the clerk. The first is the removal of Edison Ehie as leader. The second is the suspension of Edison Ehie representing Ahoda East, Victor Oko representing Bonny, Goodboy Sakari Goodboy representing Ahoda West, Adolphus Timothy representing Okpobonkoro from the House. And thirdly is the impeachment of Governor Fubara.
A very important motion.
Finally, Silvanus Mwakwa from Omuma constituency presents the notice of impeachment against the governor as signed by 24 members. The governor is accused of acts of gross misconduct unbecoming of the office of the governor.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I rise to move a very important motion brought pursuant to Order 12 and Order 28 of our standing orders. Mr. Speaker, the said motion is a motion to remove the majority leader of the River State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Edison Ehie. Mr. Speaker, the reason for this motion is for inefficiency and ineffectiveness. Mr. Speaker, I so move. With your leave, Mr. Speaker, may I lay it at the table.
The Speaker asks that the notice of impeachment be forwarded to the governor and allow the legal process to take its course, after which he adjourns plenary indefinitely. Shortly after the sitting, a faction of the Assembly members met elsewhere and elected the former majority leader, Edison Ehie, as their Speaker.
My commitment to Rivers people is that I will be fair, I will be just to all and sundry, and I will ensure that the rule of law takes its course. I will not betray my colleagues, I will not betray Rivers people, I will not betray my constituents. I will also ensure the independence of the Rivers House Assembly is adhered to with mutual respect to the judiciary and the executive arm of government.
However, shots are heard outside and the lawmakers immediately flee the chambers as tear gas and water cannons are used to disperse protesters outside.
All right, welcome back. So yes, indeed, that is what we're focusing on this morning. And Professor Richard Nwakocha joins us. He's of the Public Law Department, Rivers State University, and also former chairman of MBA Omoko branch. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us. Last time we spoke to you, you were chairman of the branch. So we're good to have you on again today. Been a while, though. So
good morning, Cambodia, and good morning, Nigerians.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the dailies describe different words today of that matter: confusion, mayhem, all sorts going out. And I wonder how you lawyers would just sit back and be analyzing all of these things from the point of law, scrambling to see what's going on. But from what a lot of people can see, it is indeed confusing. So tell us, Prof, what do you make of what's going on?
Well, very disturbing, very sad, as you have said, is the list of what law and order expects. I mean, the list of what the state expects in the practice of constitutional democracy. It's an unfortunate, very unfortunate and brazen abuse of the intents of the Constitution.
You know, I hear people talk about, say, look, there will either be a legal solution or a political solution. If both of them can meet, who knows? So I guess one of the ways we can look at this is from the point of law. So from your legal perspective now, in terms of how the event unfolded, first of which, when the assembly complex had been touched. So what does the law say about where a sitting can hold, and what are the processes for that?
I've always said, if you look at the Constitution, it does not situate the House in the physical property. I think the assemblage is the assemblage of representatives of the people with the mace, which is the symbol of authority. So, yeah, you can have situations where the House resolves to meet elsewhere, and that will be a legitimate place to meet, so long as members of the House agree on meeting in that place. You can have situations where the House is unusable, where it's in renovation. Governance does not stop in those cases. And so it will remain hallowed chambers. If the House resolves to sit at a particular place, it will be a legitimate sitting.
So, resolving to sit at that particular place means they've got to go through their internal... But wait, Prof, if the place had already been touched, before they resolve to sit somewhere else, they have to meet somewhere and then decide. So, were they not supposed to have met before then and then decide? Or did they meet at that place and then validate their meeting at that particular venue?
I suppose that a mere motion moved will be able to bring the halo character to that environment once they sit. Because especially in this kind of situation, if a place gets touched or some natural calamity happens to the building, they cannot go into that environment where something has already happened to hold a meeting and take a resolution before they can be active. So it will be their adopting wherever they are, moving a motion and adopting the place for the sitting that will confer the hollowness on that place. And that will become chambers once they do that.
Okay, so if that were to happen, under what circumstances can the state governor say, no sitting can hold here, I am the chief security officer of the state, and as such, nothing can happen here? Because
government works as one body. If there is a notification, remember that the executive is in charge of execution of policies, maintenance, and all such activities. So if there is a proper notification from the executive to the legislature concerning the place of meeting, that will be legitimate government action, because it is the responsibility of the executive to inspect and to fix or repair whatever has gone wrong with any government property. That is execution.
But in this case, I don't know if we're missing some points here, because a lot of things happen real quick. Now, from what was out there, if the governor then goes to that particular venue and says, you can't sit here, but out there, the information out there is that, well, they didn't sit there, they sat somewhere else. So does that decision or pronouncement by the governor invalidate the sitting that had already held in a place that was sanctified, or they brought the hallowedness in that particular place to take that decision, the lawmakers now?
I am afraid we can't say so.
Oh, okay. Okay, then, pardon me, go on. I think you're coming
because it is not the declaration of any public officer's legitimacy on the sitting. Any particular public officer that lends legitimacy to the sitting. I think it's the adoption of the sitting place by a motion moved by the members of the assembly, and that confers the character and status of a hallowed chamber on wherever they meet. So it is not the declaration, I'm afraid.
So, Prof, do you have any information as to how, because the majority leader, was it majority? But the leader of the House was suspended by the House. They sat and said, he's been removed. He's no more. Then we'll get another report saying he emerged as Speaker. So do you have any information to say that, well, if we can use the word, validly met or a majority met and elected him as Speaker?
Chamberlain is a bit unclear and difficult at this stage. Just as you said, we have also heard that members of the House met somewhere and took some action, resolved on taking some action against the governor, sending impeachment notice. We also had another faction of the House met elsewhere and took some steps. Yeah, the first one purportedly removed the Speaker, the leader of the House, and purportedly set the stage for impeaching the governor. And we also had another faction met. We can't speak for the numbers. It's a bit difficult and unclear for us now because they are all reported matters. So we also hear another faction met and took some other action, removing House officers, especially the leadership of the House, and electing new House officers. This kind of confusion is not new to us. It's not strange. And I think we are back to witnessing the kind of thing we witnessed last time. That was dissimilar.
Okay. So yesterday, our correspondent, Charles Opurum, had gone back to the House of Assembly, and, you know, there was quiet right there. Everything looked very peaceful. He also gave us the information that initially the House had adjourned to the Thursday this week, when they last sat, I think on Friday, the 27th of October. They adjourned to Thursday, the 2nd of November this week. And they didn't explain why they had this emergency meeting. Is it possible that you can just have an emergency meeting after you've adjourned to a particular date?
I think a meeting has to be properly, if the House had adjourned to Thursday, it raises an issue. If there is an emergency situation that calls for meeting, then appropriate notices ought to have been given and all that before that can happen. But as it is, it's yet somewhat unclear to us, observing from outside the House. But I think if the House properly adjourned to meet on Thursday, if there is an emergency, then there ought to have been effective communication of that emergency and effective decision to have that emergency meeting that they had.
Okay, so would you consider Friday to Monday sufficient time to pass that information around?
I suppose the character of emergency will make that possible. I mean, if we had a challenge affecting the health and well-being of citizens of the state, a natural calamity or any other kind of calamity, or even an outbreak of war or some kind of attack on the state, it will be legitimate for an emergency meeting to be called within that time frame. So yes, I think for purposes of emergency, that may be sufficient.
Well, in addition to what the governor said yesterday, after he was able to visit the site of the arson on the House of Assembly, he said, in addition to saying that he is the chief security officer and he's the one who should determine he should find a suitable place for the House of Assembly to sit, he also declared that whatever had happened in any place, in any purported place, was null and void. Is that a statement that can be rightly made? I
am afraid no. We have to say this, that a lot of anomaly happened yesterday. The governor, as you know, is dubbed chief security officer, even though I always question how they can do that when they do not control the security forces. But the governor tried to go to where that incident happened, and we saw video clips of the governor being directly attacked, sprayed with water, tear gas thrown at the governor, guns being shot, and all of that. It was difficult to comprehend how that could happen in a civil governance, in a civil government, and in an environment like what we have at the moment. So when you consider all those anomalies, you are likely to have those kind of declarations. But attachment of legal value depends on what the law says and what the courts who interpret the law will say. So I am afraid none of us, no individual, will be able to make that declaration.
Okay, now to the attack on the governor, because I mean you have also highlighted that as well, and that's what a lot of Nigerians also saw on TV screens yesterday. We're inundated with that, tear gas, water cannons, etc. On a governor. Are there any legal? I'm looking for the right words now. I'm wondering whether it's legal complications, implications. Are there legal consequences for that?
In a state run by law, in a nation under the law, everybody who took such action and anybody who made such decision attacked the Nigerian state and ought to be brought to book.
In other words, the governor represents the Nigerian state and he was attacked yesterday.
Yes, the constitutional order, the governor represents the Nigerian constitution, the Nigerian state. So an attack on the governor, in the way we saw it yesterday, was a very serious offense for which whomever did that attacked the Nigerian state and ought to be brought to book, ought to be subjected to the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. To do otherwise will be sending a very dangerous message.
Well, Rivers has had a very, I'm looking for the right words again, and I'm selecting my words very, very carefully. I don't want to say turbulent political history, but this sort of controversy is not novel to Rivers State in terms of political transitions, in terms of from one successor to the predecessor to a successor. And in the middle of all of this has been the relationship. What has been fingered for all that has happened in Rivers yesterday is the relationship between the predecessor, who was the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, former Governor Nyesom Wike, and his current successor, Governor Siminalayi Fubara. And people have said it's because the relationship has gone sour. I think my colleague Chimmerling has already alluded to, will it be a political solution? Will it be a legal solution? But given the events of yesterday, do you think that for the sake of the people of Rivers State, do you think that they're beyond a political solution? Or can this really be resolved legally, given all of the different arms of government that have now been involved as a result of the actions of yesterday?
Every problem or activity in the political space can profit from a political solution. But I am concerned that when the Nigerian state is attacked the way it was done yesterday, there must be a legal response. Look, no nation has been known to survive from political arrangements. There is no nation in which you will have that kind of situation, an affront on the state and on the constitution of the nation, and it is politically resolved. Necessary legitimate action should be taken. For once you skip it, you open the floodgate to the fact that that can happen. And then, yes, Rivers State is beginning to acquire that history of having that character. But you know that this is a short history for Rivers State. Rivers State is a state that has been in existence since about 1967 or so. And this appears to play out only with some specific characters. It is not the culture of Rivers State. It is not the history of Rivers State. It's a history being brought upon Rivers State by specific actors who are in the field and when they act from specific locations. I think if you want to think back, you won't go beyond one time that this has happened. And it's the same actors, the same characters, the same kind of action from the same location.
Okay, well, I understand that we have to go to break now. Prof, I'm going to ask you to please stay on with us. Okay, but just before we do, my colleague Ayo has a question or two for you.
Well, thank you, Maupe. Prof, thank you for, being here and all the education you've given us. But let's speak to some politics, first of all. As Chamberlain and Maupe alluded earlier on the program, it's like this sprung on everyone, as a surprise. Even Chamberlain said that kind of surprise could wake the dead. Did you see this coming?
I cannot say I did not see it coming. When you have the kind of events that unfolded in Rivers State in the last, let's say in the last 1 year, and especially towards the transition, when you have the structure of government hedged the way they were done, this was bound to happen. If there is a surprise for me, it will be that it happened a little too soon. I expected it to come up somewhere along the line, but not this soon. That is the only surprise for me. But this was anticipated from the structure of the new government that was formed. It was clearly anticipated by anybody who knows a little of Rivers history.
Help us understand. Yeah, help us understand what this structure is and why it was, as you seem to be saying, broken from the beginning.
Well, if you have a transition and the entire government, nearly the entire government that is supposed to be transitioning out is returned, it raises issues and questions of control. If you look at how the current government was structured up to yesterday, I hear rumors, I don't know if they are all true, about dissolution of some instruments of government and all that. But if you look at the way it was structured, it was practically a return of the previous government. Now, what will happen is that there will be loyalty questions, and there will be questions of who controls that structure. Nearly the entire cabinet was returned. A few additions or a few changes that you could call cosmetic took place. And offices composed, appointive positions and all that, the way they were all structured, it was a practical reenactment of the government that was supposed to be transitioning out. So, as I said, when you have that kind of situation, there will definitely be the question of where does loyalty lie and what is likely to happen. And what is the purpose of such wholesale return of the previous structure. The kind of situation we have now will be anticipated.
But Prof, wasn't that supposed to be a good thing in the name of continuity? I mean, it's the same political party, it's the same political structure, so to speak, because it's the same political structure that campaigned for the government in power. I mean, maybe some of us are getting some things wrong.
Yeah, it ought to be a good thing. But Nigerian experience does not tell you it's a good thing. Look at it, though where that much did not happen. Look at other states where some level of involvement of the outgoing government was rather prominent in the structures set up by the new government. The very idea of governance is that every 4 or 8 years, society should be able to get the benefit of a new beginning. And you could do well, but you know the usual thing. Staying too long in government raises questions about the government. So it ought to have been a good thing, but it raises the question of who is taking the actions, where does loyalty lie?
Okay.
And when you have that,
yeah,
you're definitely going to have those situation, which is what we have right now. As I said, the only surprise is that it's coming so early in the day. But it was expected to happen.
Well, talking about expectations, I'm right now, I'm a little confused whether or not there is a House of Assembly in Rivers State. Because on the one hand, we just heard, I mean, just as you analyzed to us the other time, the House leader was suspended in one breath. And before we know what is happening, we understand that a good number of the people, the members of the House, who elected to suspend the House leader or remove him as, House leader also cross to the other side to elect that particular House leader as Speaker of the House of Assembly. So, legitimately, legally speaking, is there a House of Assembly right now in Rivers State?
Once members of the House have been elected by the constituencies and the House has been proclaimed, there is a House of Assembly. We can raise question of what is really happening. Are they really sitting the way the Constitution expects them to do? Or are they sitting in splinter groups? Are we going to have even more factions emerging and making declarations? Those are the things that are not clear. And the reason it is not clear is that there is a situation that renders the use of the normal chambers where we could go to glean the fact and determine what is going on. There is a situation that has rendered that place not usable. That is why we have this situation. So you are having sittings, and we'll be getting reports of sittings that we may not be aware of where the sittings are holding. Legitimacy questions may be raised and all that. But I think these are issues that will have to be answered or determined by the branch of government that has capacity to do so, and that is the judiciary eventually.
Well, maybe we should ask that question from the point of law. What legitimizes the sitting of a House of Assembly? I mean, both...
I believe it.
Go ahead, sir.
I believe it is the presence of quorum as prescribed by the Constitution. And as I have said, it's not the building, because a building is a physical structure and anything can happen at any time to a building. Natural or man-made calamity can affect a building at all times. So if there is quorum and the symbol of authority is there and the House passes a resolution to adopt the place for sitting, I believe that that is a hallowed chamber for the purpose of governance.
So when you say symbol of authority, are you talking about the mace?
The mace, yes.
Okay. But does that, are we to say, that's the reason actually that I asked the question whether or not we have a House of Assembly in Rivers State, because, I mean, can we say that the mace was used at both points? If the mace was used at both sittings, then which one is the legitimate sitting?
That is the question. But you know, even the mace, situation may arise where the mace could even be absent. What if the calamity that rendered the house incapable of being used also consumed the mace? What if the fire burnt down everything in the house, including the mace? Does it mean that government will come to an end until a new mace is made and consecrated or something before the chambers can meet or before the house can meet? So these are questions that are all thrown up by the situation. Unfortunately, we are not in position to know because we do not have the full facts of who met where and how they met and with what mace they met. I know the mace is not in itself the magic wand, because what consumed the house could have consumed the mace, and government will not come to an end in the circumstance.
So, well, which raises the question again, what legitimizes a house? But there is more when we return from this break, Prof. So please stay with us.
In a twist of events similar to that of 2013, Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State is making efforts with the help of the security aides to gain access into the State House of Assembly complex. His intention, according to the state government, is to inspect the complex, which was gutted by fire on Sunday night. But on arrival at the Moscow Road, where the assembly is located, his convoys met with stiff resistance by uniformed men. Tear gas canisters and gunshots were released to push back the governor's convoy. But insisting on going further, the governor damns the consequences as he alights from his vehicle and walks by foot to the complex, where he inspects what is left of the assembly chambers.
From what I've seen, The security is even compromised.
Yeah, exactly.
They were shooting at me. They were shooting at me. This operation was shooting at me directly. But it doesn't matter. Somebody will die one day.
Yes.
I want to die. When people hear Fubara, they say, who is this Fubara? Is that man that was killed one time for a struggle? You will not die. You will not die. I am not against anybody. I am not planning anything against anybody. I'm the chief security officer. I'm the head of the government. The first person that should come, declare the place, and create an alternative place for assembly to sit. So whatever action that is taken here is none.
His visit comes few minutes after 24 out of the 32 members of the State Assembly sat to suspend 4 members and presented a notice of impeachment to be served on the governor over alleged gross misconduct. With cheers from his supporters, Governor Fubara, in company of now suspended leader and members of the State House of Assembly, walked back to the government house, where he addresses the crowd at the gate, vowing to resist any unlawful impeachment process.
So my journey today is, whatever it is that wants to happen, let it happen. If Siminalayi Fubara is impeached, I am not the first, neither will I be the last. Come out and tell the people of Rivers State that offense that Fubara committed that is warranting impeachment. So, but my happiness this morning is the people of Rivers, represented by every one of you here, is with us. I can go home and sleep.
Residents will only hope that this crisis, coming less than 6 months into his current administration, does not escalate.
Thank you for staying with us. We're still talking about the situation in Rivers State. Prof, let's talk about a couple of interventions that are playing out currently. The police, let's begin with that one. The governor said that the police shot at him, on the one hand. On the other hand, he also has a convoy that includes the police. Glad to know that the Nigeria police has already said that they are aware of the security situation at the Rivers House of Assembly and that they are actively addressing the matter. They've launched a comprehensive investigation to uncover the circumstances and will take immediate action against those responsible. What do you make of this, and how hopeful are you, how confident are you that something significant will come out of that?
Sorry, I'm experiencing some audio difficulty. You are not audible enough.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
I think it's slightly better now, yes.
Okay. The situation that the governor spoke about, that on the one hand, cops shot at him, meanwhile in his own convoy, there are still cops. And the police now say that they are looking into the matter. What do you make of that conundrum?
It's entirely abuse of powers. I don't know who. The House of Assembly of the state is very close to the police headquarters. So I do not see how there could be some kind of error. Is it inability to identify who was coming or what? I don't know what the investigation is going to be focused on and what is going to reveal, because there was no way you could have mistaken who was coming, and there was no way that it would have been necessary to attack who was coming, even if it was just Rivers citizens going to see what had happened to the House of Assembly of the state. There was no way you could have, directed the water cannon at the governor directly, fired shots and fired cannons with the tear gas, with the canisters almost hitting him if he didn't dodge from time to time. I mean, it was a clear affront on the law by whoever was doing that and whoever directed them to do what they were doing. Yeah, the cops who were with the governor, 2 or 3 or whatever the number, were cops who were guarding the governor specifically and directly. And I'm sure those who were firing these things also saw them. Nevertheless, they carried on with the activity in the true character of lawlessness that we have experienced in Rivers State in the past. You remember the case of Commissioner Mbu, who at a point even tried to hold the governor under house arrest to prevent him from leaving the government house sometime in the past, the administration before the immediate past administration. I think this is what we are witnessing playing out again, a brazen abuse of the law and the constitution of the land. And I think it is worrisome. It will be sad to see Rivers State descending again to the state of anarchy that it was thrown into in the past, and something needs to be done to curb that.
Well, the second kind of intervention we're hearing is that PDP governors are going to hold an emergency meeting for some kind of intervention. What, in your opinion, are likely to be brought up at that meeting? How is that likely to produce any results?
Well, between the combatants, I'm not certain whether it can directly produce any result. The state is under PDP government, but I think at this point of conflict, the conflict seems to be between the government of the state and some elements who are working outside the government of the state. So if that is the case, because the state is a PDP, a state under PDP government, it will be expected that PDP governors will move, or PDP as a party will move, take steps to see what it could do to douse whatever problem was arising from the state, since supposedly the state is under PDP government. It will also be in their interest to meet, because this can also be interpreted as an attack on the opposition, since it's a territory governed by the opposition. It will also be necessary for them to meet and fashion out how they can respond to it, to take steps to preserve the government that is an opposition government or a PDP government in an APC-run government, national government. So I think such meetings will be expected at this point.
Well, Prof,
as to the effect it can have, I guess it will have to be by their calling on the government at the center to do something about the situation, because it doesn't look like all the parties that they need to meet with will be in that meeting.
Well, Prof, there's something you said about the fact, and you said that repeatedly even in response to Chamberlain's questions earlier, that this whole thing is strange to Rivers State. What do you think is at the heart of it? And how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? You've referenced the fact that 2 governments before now, this happened, and it seems that it's likely to fester for a while. What is at the heart of this, and how do we ensure it doesn't happen again?
I think it is restoring the rule of law and ensuring that the instruments of coercion of the state are not used against the Constitution itself. Every time people are condemned, are considered less than human, what follows is their extermination. And any time there is the impression that the public instruments of coercion can be used and abused by any persons in privileged position, what you are witnessing usually results. So we need to do something about stopping the abuse of the public instrument of coercion, which is what is being deployed and which is what is emboldening those who are acting at the moment. I think that is the direction we need to look at, how to ensure that public institutions and instruments of coercion serve the ends and purposes of the Constitution, and how to plug the loophole through which they are being abused.
The question then is, where is these instruments of coercion coming from? Who is wielding them? As you said again, this is not the first time, and it's happening now. And who's to say that it's not going to happen again? So if we in restoring the rule of law, as you said, and forestalling the wielding of instruments of coercion, who is usually at the heart or behind these instruments?
The last time it happened in Rivers State, it was action from those who control the security agencies. And you know that the security agencies is not under the control of the state. And so whatever we are looking for here lies outside the state. It lies at the center. Or at the notorious time of Mbo's commissionership of the police in Rivers State, he made it clear that he does not take instruction from the chief security officer of the state. And if you look at the law, his instruction comes from above, from Abuja. And so whatever we'll have to deal with here is coming from the ends from which police can be authorized to directly attack the custodian of the constitution in the state. It's not within.
Okay. Well, that's very, very interesting.
Outside the state.
Okay. Chamberlain, back to you.
Prof, concerning your earlier view about where constitutes a proper place for legislative proceedings, I've had lawyers who are quick to remind us that they thought that the court in Peter Obi's case said you cannot constitute a hotel as a seat, a place where you can have sitting for the House of Assembly and call it such, because it means that that might just end up being chaotic. Anybody could go anywhere and do any of such.
Yeah, where there is a public facility reserved for sitting of the House, it would be absurd for you to consecrate some other place as a place for carrying out our public business. But what if there is a flood that has consumed the area? What if there is the kind of situation you had yesterday, fire that has engulfed the house? Government will not wait until a new one is built. If you look at the language of the Constitution, from section 95 to 96, down to 97, which is on language of use in the House and voting in the House, section 98, all of them emphasize the character of sitting, not the place where the sitting is holding. And since the Constitution says quorum is XYZ, once that quorum is met, I think that where they are sitting will not be necessary if there is an explanation for why they are not sitting at the usual place. If a court carries out its activities outside the buildings of the judiciary, there will be question. The same thing if government decides to sit elsewhere and act, there will be question if they are not acting from the place designated for it. But if there is something that has affected that place designated for it, I believe that a motion moved will render any place they are sitting, even if it's under an umbrella tree, it will render that place fit for sitting and carrying out of the activities of government with respect to the legislative arm. So
does it then mean that since this group, or if this first group claimed that they were the majority who met, probably constituted that place into a hallowed place where they can have their sitting and carried out their action, does it then mean that if another group is to counter that action, it has to be in that same venue, nowhere else?
You know, there are specifics the Constitution provided about the meeting of the House. It says it shall be presided over by the Speaker, and in the absence of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker. And in the absence of that, by any officer whom the House designates to do so for that sitting. So it means if you have quorum, you have the right officers, or the right officers are absent. The Constitution did not provide for the kind of reason that will make them absent, and the House resolves and appoints one of them to preside. It means that the constitutional expectations have been met. Okay, so if you have one third of the members, which is the quorum prescribed by the Constitution, okay, it does look like business can be conducted.
All right. Tell us, give us your interpretation of Section 11(4) of the 1999 Constitution here, because many already say that this is a perfect scenario. It is rife that the National Assembly will then have to come in and take over the functions of the State Assembly since they cannot perform the functions, so to speak. Is that right?
Yeah, the Constitution provides for that emergency situation concerning order and public security, where it becomes impossible for the House to sit. It provides for the National Assembly to be able to take over the functions of the House. What I can tell is whether right now we have reached that point. But if we have a polarized situation where each faction can summon 1/3 of the House, meaning the quorum required, and actions are taking place in conflicting manner and is threatening the peace and security of this part of the nation, yes, it will be legitimate for Section 11 to be resorted to.
Well, what I'm looking at now, a number of other actions yesterday. You made reference to it. You said that they still seemed like they were in the realm of rumor. But while we're waiting for concrete, will I say, confirmation of what it is that we've heard, and I'm sure that we should be getting that much clearer in the course of today, that local government chairmen have been sacked. The other faction of the House of Assembly, which was said to have sat, led by the majority leader who was removed in the morning, was said to have removed the chief judge of the state and asked the governor to appoint another chief judge. These are some of the stories that we have heard. I do not know if you can put any confirmation to it. I know that we are the media house and we should be confirming that to you. But I mean, you are right there in Rivers State, and you would also have a very clear idea of what has happened right there in the state. But looking at this, looking at all of that, I mean, some people will say these are all the casualties. We're still looking through the consequences of some of what has transpired yesterday. First, I want you to respond to that, if this is what you have also heard.
I have heard it just the way you said. I have also heard of such things, but what I can confirm is I have not listened to any broadcast where that was done. I have also heard that in the sitting of the House that passed a resolution asking the governor to suspend the chief judge and all that. I have heard that such resolutions were passed by that sitting. I cannot confirm beyond that concerning the local government and all of that. I cannot confirm whether the recommendations have been carried out and whether those things have all been done. But I have heard from the outside that those are actions that we are taking yesterday.
Can they stand in law? All of these actions, assuming they were proven to be true, would they have a legal basis?
You recall that even contrary to the Constitution, most of the states have included provisions in their local government law that make all kinds of things possible. Ordinarily, suspension of the chairman of a local government should have been an issue that is internal to that local government, that should follow the constitutional process of the House, the local legislature, passing those resolutions and taking the steps required by law. But in the local government law of nearly all the states, you have provisions for removal of the chairman by the governor, XYZ situations like the House of Assembly calling for it to be done, and some other situations under which it can be done. So it is possible with respect to the local government that they have created those loopholes through which the House of Assembly may be making such recommendations. Otherwise, they would have had legal consequences. So I can say that for the House of Assembly. I'm not certain about the others, but what usually happens in times of war is that all parties, one way or the other, resort to illegalities.
More concretely, this one is in respect to the chief judge of the state. What is the process for removing a chief judge?
If you clearly, you'll find that that has removal of a chief judge Well, we're talking of suspension here. I think what is possible is that the one we know, which is the usual channel where there is a complaint against the chief judge and it goes to the NJC, NJC can make a recommendation. But I think Justice Onogen's case gave us the opportunity to see clearly that there may be need for administrative suspension where, for instance, the office of the chief judge is being investigated and he cannot preside over his activity. I tried at that time to distinguish between administrative suspension and punitive suspension. The suspension that results from investigation that comes as a punishment with some things attached, such as reduced salary, non-payment of salary and all that. Those are punitive. But stepping aside to enable an investigation is administrative. The person affected does not lose anything. That is purely administrative. So in this case, I am afraid that we cannot say with certainty what the reasons are for what has been done and whether it falls within what we can say is administrative suspension, a reason for so doing. Definitely removal is out of the question, and I think the language I had concerning yesterday was suspension.
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting because even recently there are cases where local government chairmen who were suspended have went to court saying no, a governor cannot suspend validly elected local government chairman. The same way the president cannot suspend validly elected governors, and so who knows? Maybe in the days ahead, we may see the local government, the quote, suspended local government chairman go to court and get a stay saying, no, we were validly elected, you cannot suspend us. And so I'm sure the courts will be very busy in the days ahead. The courts will be made unnecessarily very busy again. But the Supreme Court, excuse me. Yeah. Okay. I guess, Prof, that might be our cue.
The Supreme Court has in the past local government is under the provision of the states for the state to create the way they function and all that. And that has enabled them to infuse these provisions, which they have continued to use because the Constitution gives the House of Assembly the power to make laws regulating the local governments. All
right, Professor Richard Nwokocha, Public Law, University of Rivers State University, I beg your pardon, former chairman of MBA Omoku branch. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a citizen's duty.
All right, then. We're back in just a moment. Stay on with us.